living in the age of deception. Can you trust the things you see? Can you know what to believe? Is there any truth buried beneath the lies? Can you see it if you try? Too many trapped because they were intrigued. Too many dead because they were deceived. Powers play with the minds of men, tripping them with dark inception, owning men in the age of deception. Principalities in heavenly places probably are amused, listening to the talking heads on the TV news, no longer reporting events, but carefully molding your point of view. Watching lights above floating in the sky, so many opinions, but never identified. A way to truth was provided, and perhaps the Father now is grieved, for warnings were given long ago, but were not received. Take heed, the words spoken, so that you won't be deceived. Not a philosophy to contemplate, but words spoken with authoritative inflection, spoken for those who would hear. It was a prophecy of the age of deception. The Greek poet Hesiod attempted to identify history's ages, with golden, silver, bronze, heroic, and iron being the stages. Mixing science with history, we have added ice, stone, copper, and space, all attempting to describe the history and future of the human race. But I say we have been living or existing only because of grace. The turnings of generational cycles over and over again. There's nothing new that exists under the sun. What is today has been. Deception rightly is the name for the age in which we now exist. For folly is accepted while the truth man still resists, and sleeping fools stumble blindly through the political correctness mist. Here's a bit of history from man's earliest years. The words of the Nakash were smooth and delicious to the ears, as though he had been rehearsing them for years, like a fine wine aged to its ultimate perfection, and Eve succumbed to them without any hesitation. The unique beauty of his shimmering appearance made it impossible to look away, and by the same token impossible not to hear the words he had to say. As in the days of Eden, today is no exception. Entranced by the beauty of lies, we have no perception, and the world is intently listening to the voices of deception. Are we not deceived because we are defiant? In our pride, believing our own strength can slay the giants, and even the elect become deceived and are accompanied with the compliant. Our pride wants us to believe that we can transfer into a sleeve, and great will be the fall of those who by this lie become deceived. Deception can be overt, or it can be very subtle. It will censor truth and deny a voice if to the lie it would make rebuttal. Just try and find a mainstream source that will be honest regarding vaccinations. Can the motive be discovered for worldwide immigration? Immigration is what it's called, but a more appropriate term would be invasion. How about a genderless society? Now that one takes the biological cake. The results of that delusion will be devastating when it is fully baked. Poison food, poison air, entitled to my health care, and snowflakes needing teddy bears. Medicare, welfare, solar flare warfare, and the obvious absence of prayer. Can you manage to untangle the truth from deception anywhere? The USA was once a republic, but is now a giant corporation. Money once had value, but because of butcher bankers, it is suffering ablation. We're all enemies of the state, thanks to actions taken in 1913 and 1933. But we don't care as long as we are popular on the social media marquees, and so an entire nation has become lovers of self, and the masses are deceived. If you're not convinced we are living in the age of deception, just look at DARPA, HARP, the Patriot Act, and secret FEMA installations. Why has the UFO disclosure been replete with years of misdirection? Are there schools of higher learning or just places of indoctrination? Can you trust the things you see? Do you know what to believe in the age of deception? I haven't touched on false religions or the New Age movement, the lie that says we're our own deity or those that fall for that inducement. Many are the false teachers and false preachers telling lies to their recruitments. The deception and wisdom of this world is the enemy of God without exception. Can you trust the things you see? Do you know what you can believe in the age of deception? If we are not living in the age of deception, Nancy Pelosi would not be an elected official and Adam Schiff would never be a guest on the evening news. If we are not living in the age of deception, the television networks would refuse to air programming such as The View. If we were not living in the age of deception, drag queens would not be allowed to influence children in our schools. If we were not living in the age of deception, the masses would not be anxiously awaiting the latest king of misrule. We missed the warnings of the Son of God when he told his disciples to take heed so that we would not be fooled. The age of deception is proven through the cover-up of child sacrifice by the elite. The age of deception is proven with the censorship of every truthful tweet. You cannot deny the age of deception when you examine all the programs hidden from our sight, especially considering human trafficking, mind control victims, and what is determined to be their plight. If you are not yet quite convinced, then let me continue if I might. Epstein didn't kill himself, and why has that story gone completely silent? How can it be that dead bodies follow the Clintons like flies following dung and all the world is pliant? The age of deception reveals the deceived through the actions and rhetoric of the lawless and defiant. What about the cover-up of the ancient Nephilim, the giants of ancient myths? The stories that have been buried with bones by the Smithsonian would make a lengthy list. Strange sounds, the unexplained, and cataclysms growing, and in a crisis of truth we now exist. Civil war is at our door because too many like the feeling of being deceived. The age of deception is marked by an era of treason, and the founding fathers must be grieved. Christians are being persecuted and dying by the score, and the world covers up their screams. A circus parades through the Vatican as multiple volcanoes explode their ash into the air. And Virginia has become a battleground for freedom, and few there are who care. If this were not the age of deception, would children's stories train them to be witches? If this were not the age of deception, we would know the truth about coronaviruses. If this were not the age of deception, you would not be imprisoned for an infection in your sinuses. If this was not the age of deception, there would be no cover-up of vitamin C and revoking natural healing doctors' licenses. If this were not the age of deception, would FEMA be buying weapons, body bags, and guillotines? If this were not the age of deception, would the powers that be building giant data collection machines? This is the age of deception, so Christian, take heed so that you are not deceived. The age of deception will be marked by attacks against God himself. Others cannot see through the deception for you. You must awaken for yourself. The age of deception will be remembered as the generation of lies, when the children were being sacrificed and no one heard their cries. In the age of deception, nothing is as it appears, and dark forces are continually playing on your fears. It is a time of hiding the truth of things affecting climate change. It is a time when the unrighteous and those without virtue reign. When the sun, tectonic plates, the magma pools, and magnetosphere were ignored. An age when there has been a continual clashing of the sword. The age of deception hides the truth from us, even in the labeling of our food. It is an age wherein the people are convinced to love the profane and the lewd. History will record the age of deception as a time of false flags and false wars, a time when the Soroses of this world had it all and yet they wanted more. An era of treason when the righteous were continually under attack, and the watchmen had little help, even from their brothers, to fight back. A time when those who expose the lies and tell the truth are denied any public platform, and the agenda to seize control is paramount, forcing the masses to all conform. The age of deception will see the terrifying rise of the Black Awakening. And the only salvation for mankind will be a biblical proportion shaking. This age has seen a prolific rise in false doctrines, teachings, and religions. This age will testify to the time when we witness the death of altruism. The age of deception is the period of self-promoting lies from the pulpits. Those who live without fear in this new dark age will be God's mighty remnant. The fallen angel and deep state propaganda has targeted so many generations. Evil plans have been implemented to achieve a chemical castration. Entertainment and even sporting events have become profane, all in an attempt to show for God the enemy's virulent disdain. The age whereof I speak is filled with untold government cover-ups. And every day wrath is being poured by buckets into God's judgment cup. We have now seen generations of silencing the truth through murder or incarceration. We have seen generations of suffering through pharmaceutical causation. We have seen generations of earthquakes, flood, fire, political crimes, and famine. We have seen generations of evil rising for the sake of power and for mammon. There are questions surrounding such things as the landing on the moon. There are questions surrounding truth while the righteous are impugned. There are questions why some have blackened eyes and are wearing supported boots. There are questions of coming asteroids that upon the earth will be loosed. But there is no question as to the source of this world's evil, its intentions, or its roots. Secret societies have flourished in the age of deception, while Christian persecution, we are told, is just a misconception. The resources of both people and the planet have been raped. And by Alexa, Siri, and Facebook, our principles and dogma have been shaped. Have we sacrificed privacy and families for technology, disregarding what is at stake? The age of deception will be disclosed by coming catastrophic events. The age of deception will end when truth is at last allowed ascent.
The age of deception, the era of treason, and the generation of lies
are not beyond our Father or beyond our prayers, for He still hears our cries. God has not relinquished His throne, nor broken any of His covenants. He will not be usurped by satanic ritual or secret societies and governments. There remains salvation for those repentant and those who will seek His face. For the age of deception has not nearly expired God's boundless grace. There remains a true and eternal hope for all who trust in Him. There remains a sure and strong shelter for those who repent of sin. There remains the promise of eternal life regardless of the ages of man. There remains for His children a heavenly blueprint, God's perfect plan. He will make for me the age of deception an age of victory. Even if you think that might sound contradictory, God has worked in dichotomies throughout all of history, and His story, by His living word, has already revealed this age's mysteries.